Hello and welcome to the sewing studio. Today I'm going to show you how to make the quilt behind me, and this is made using a layer cake, and this is the easiest quilt you'll ever make using a layer cake. When this fabric first arrived, I wasn't very keen, but now I've made this quilt up, I absolutely love it, and it's called Dwell in Possibility. And the best thing is, at this moment, it's on sale here at the sewing studio. So I'm going to show you how we make this quilt. So the first thing you need to do is to take your 10-inch squares, and I've put two together here. So I've got a white one and I've got an orange one. So you put them into pairs and you contrast your colours. So each block is made of a pair. And the first thing you need to do is to cut off 2 inches. So you only need to remember one measurement. So we're going to cut off 2 inches. We're going to cut off another 2 inches. And then I'm going to turn my mat and I'm going to cut off 2 inches. And another 2 inches. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate my blocks, and the blocks are now going to be opposite to one another. So I've got a big piece of orange and then smaller pieces of the black and white, and then I've got the big piece of black and white with smaller pieces of the orange. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to join those back together. So we're just going over to the sewing machine, but before I do that, if you like what we do, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok. You can see what our customers make, you can meet the team, you can see behind the scenes, and we'll answer all of your questions in the comments below. So I'm now going to join the pieces together, and I'm using a 1/4 inch seam. So the first thing I'm going to do is the 2 short pieces. And normally I'd iron these before I joined the others, but I'm just going to finger press them back. And then I'm going to join the 2 long pieces. Now you'll see that when I've joined them, I've got a little extra tail here, and that's because we've lost 1/2 inch in our seams, and we trim that off afterwards. So I'm now going over to the iron to give that a good press. And then I'm just going to trim these end pieces off. And then the next thing you do, when you've got all of your blocks made, you would just lay them out next to each other. Now obviously, because I've only done 2 for today's demonstration, they're very similar, but if I'd got the whole thing done, I would change the colour about so I had a good mix of colour. And the other thing what I do when I join them together is, so you can see here I've got the longer strip at the top. I then make sure when I join it I've got the longer strip at the side, so that I haven't got, let me show you what I mean, so that I haven't got 2 seams. So if you look here, maybe you can see that on the close-up, you can see that I've got those 2 seams there, and that requires a lot more matching up. And because I didn't press these before I put the next 2 on, they're not perfectly lined up. So to avoid that, I would just turn them. So I'll just explain that again. So that's the long seam going that way, and then the long seam going that way. So on the next one, the long seam would go that way. So you just lay them out until you've got the size that you want. So the quilt behind me is approximately 57 inches square, and I've used 36 pieces from a layer cake, but you could use a whole layer cake and make it bigger if you wanted to. So we're just going to go over to the quilt behind me, and I'm going to talk you through how that was laid out and quilted. So this quilt is approximately 57 inches square, and I've used 36 of the blocks from the layer cake, and I have just laid them out as I explained to you. I've also put a little fillet in the orangey peachy colour, and that was cut at 1 inch and folded in half. And you'll notice that I've put little fillets here and here and here, and that was where I joined the border fabric. And we have got some tutorials on fillets and putting fillets into your border. I then cut my border here at 3.5 inches, so it's finished at 3, and then I've used the same orange as my fillet for my binding. And I then decided that I was going to quilt it in orange. So I've got this orange feather stitch, and I have just done really simple quilting using my machine and the feather stitch around all the blocks. And now I've really changed my mind about this fabric. I absolutely love this fabric. And I've backed it with a 60-inch wide plain black solid, and you can really see how the orange shows up with that. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. As always, make it your own, have fun, and I look forward to seeing you next time here in the sewing studio.